Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. My name is Edwin, and I'm an audit transformation manager here at DataSnipper, which means that basically I'm responsible for the implementation of DataSnipper, and also I'm coming up with new use cases which you can incorporate in your day-to-day work. Before that, I was an auditor myself, so I know the struggles that you are going through in busy season. And in today's session, we will see how you can reduce that workload using the new version of DataSnipper. Now, for that webinar, we will use menti.com. You can find the login details on the screen. I saw that a few of you have already joined to menti.com using the code on the left-hand side. But for those of you who didn't join so far, you can scan the QR code on the right-hand side or use the code on the left-hand side. I will give you a few seconds to log into menti.com. Can see some hearts coming through. It's very nice to see the love coming from the participants. Thank you very much for that. I hope everyone had the chance to log into menti.com. So let's start this presentation. My first question to you is, where are you from? As this is a very big group today, it must be interesting to see how many different people are joining. It's great. We have a very diverse group today. It's very good to see how the DataSnipper community expanded. I hope everyone is satisfied with the tool. Also, in today's session, I have my colleagues with me as well, who will moderate the Q&A section. So if at any time during the training you have questions, please post them in the Q&A section of Zoom. I will either answer it live, or my colleagues will answer it by typing in the answer in the Q&A section of Zoom. So let's see what is new in version 5. The first update that we made is relates to the UI, which means that in the new version, DataSnipper looks even better in your Excel ribbon. It looks more like a program made in 2023, so I'm sure that all of you will like it. The next big update that we made relates to the workbook settings. As a lot of you have asked for some settings to be available in DataSnipper, we made those changes in version 5. And we also introduced the document organizer. So if you are dealing with a large set of documents, it will be easier. To organize those. And also we introduced a snipping toolbar in the document viewer. So if you are using a second screen, it will be even easier to switch between each snip types. And lastly, we made several changes to the document matching UI. And also we introduced the document matching templates. Now in today's session, I will demonstrate these new updates. So I will now close this presentation and open the training materials. So first, I will walk you through the new UI of DataSnipper. So now when you open a new Excel workbook and navigate to the DataSnipper ribbon, this is the new layout that you will see. And from right to left, I will showcase you the new features of DataSnipper. As I mentioned during the presentation, we introduced a settings menu, which is right next to the Learn button. So now, when you click on it, you have the option to allow general settings or workbook settings. The general settings will be linked to your license. So the next time when you open a workbook, these settings will be applied to those workbooks as well. Now we also have workbook settings. If you tackle these, it will only apply to the workbook that you are currently at. But now let's talk about the general settings a bit. The first option that you can do is relates to the OCR. So whenever you import a document into DataSnipper, it can ask you if you want to run a text recognition on those documents, which means that DataSnipper will put a text layer over the imported documents, which makes it easier to search for information in those supporting documents. Now, instead of getting that pop-up message all the time, now you have the option to automatically apply this OCR technology on all the imported documents. So if you turn this setting on, the next time that you are importing a document into DataSnipper, it won't ask you if you want to run text recognition on those. It will automatically apply and put a text layer over those documents, so you can use each DataSnipper functionality more reliable. Now we also introduced the paste to import setting, because before that, if you wanted to import an image file into your Excel workbook and press Ctrl V, it would automatically import it into DataSnipper. But it can happen that you want to import an image into your Excel workbook. So now you have the option to turn off the Ctrl V shortcut for importing documents. So in that case, if you want to import an image, then it will appear in your Excel workbook. Now, when the first time you open Microsoft Excel, and if you have DataSnipper installed, a pop-up window will appear with the learning track invite. Now you have the option to turn that off. Now let's try a few of these features. So the first one is the paste to import. So let's see how you can import images into DataSnipper. Now, since I have this option turned on, now when I want to import an image into DataSnipper, it will look like this. I have a DataSnipper icon already ready for that. So I will press Ctrl C, and when I press Ctrl V in the workbook, you can see that the DataSnipper pop-up window appears and asks me if I want to import that image into DataSnipper. But now, if I click on the X icon, you can see that the image appears here. But let's assume that I want to import several images into that Excel workbook, and that pop-up window can be annoying. So let's see how it looks like if I turn this option off. So now that I turned it off, the Ctrl V shortcut won't work when I try to import new documents. So again, I will navigate back to the image, press Ctrl C. And now when I press Ctrl V, you can see that the pop-up window won't appear. Instead, the image will be imported into my Excel workbook. Now let's talk about the settings a bit more. So we have covered all the general settings. Let's see what are the workbook settings here. The first option we have here is to embed documents into the workbook, which means that anytime you import a document into DataSnipper, it will be automatically a part of your Excel workbook. Now, if you turn this option off, these documents won't be a part of your Excel workbook. Rather, when you are importing these documents, it will only give a file path to these documents. And when you are performing the cross-references between your workbook and the supporting documents, it will be visible on the document viewer. However, if you turn this option off and send this workbook to your colleague, they won't be able to see those cross-references because they are pointing to your local desktop. So I would advise to leave these settings as turned on, since you want to include those supporting documents in your Excel workbook, so your colleagues can also see those cross-references. Now, the next setting that we can turn on or off is the table snip suggestions. So as you can see on the right-hand side, I have a bank statement open, and the DataSnipper automatically recognized it as a table. And with just a click of a button, I can extract this data into my Excel workbook. Now, but there can be a case that, for example, if I want to create a manual text snip over here, it can be hard to do that because the Snip All Tables button is visible over here. So in order to turn this off, now we have the option to do that by navigating to the settings, navigating to the workbook settings, and turning this option off. After clicking on OK, now you can see that the automatic table snip suggestion disappeared, which means that now I can easily create text snips over that part of the document as well. Now that pretty much covers all the settings that we have added into that menu. Let's go a little bit to the left. Here you can see that the OCR button changed. Before that, it was named as text recognition. Now it's OCR, but pretty much it does the same as the recognize text button. So if you get bad results using the functionalities of DataSnipper, always think about to apply the OCR on those documents. And you can do that by clicking on the OCR, selecting all the documents, and clicking on Recognize. With that, DataSnipper will apply the text layer on all the imported documents. Now, if we go further to the left, the next change that we made is the Organize button here. So if you are dealing with a large set of supporting documents, you might want to organize them a bit. And now you have the option to do that. Let's see how that looks like. Now, when I click on the Organize button, here we can see all the imported supporting documents in that Excel workbook. And also there are some different attributes which you can check here. For example, the number of snips created over those documents. And here on the left-hand side, you also have the option to create folders, similarly to the document matching folders. You can easily create a new folder by clicking on the blue Add Folder button here. And let's create a folder for the order confirmation. Now you can see that when you create a new folder, it will automatically navigate you to that part. But let's go back to the document viewer. And here we can see all the documents that we imported again. And it's very easy to organize them into folders once we have created those. You can easily just drag and drop each supporting document. So I will just drag and drop the bank statement to the bank statement group. You can see that the folder attribute also populated in the Organize tab. Let's group the proposal as well. And also the order confirmation. And now when I click on these folders, you can see the documents that I imported here. Now, if you look to the bottom left side of the document organizer window, you can see that we added more importing options to DataSnipper. Here you can easily just drag and drop documents here. You can also click on the Import Documents button, or you can import a folder similarly to the Import Documents button here, right next to the organizer. Now let's go back to the DataSnipper ribbon. And the next big change that we made relates to the document viewer. So now, if you take a look at the document viewer here on the right-hand side, you can see that the UI changed. Now we have the option to filter for folders. So for example, if I want to see only the bank statement here in the drop-down menu next to the folder, if I select the bank statement group, click on the drop-down menu next to it, here I only have the bank statement. So now it's easier to navigate through the documents. Now if we go to the right a bit, you can see these two arrows, which means that you can easily change pages in the document viewer by either clicking on the down arrow or the up arrow. Here you can also see that we added the page numbers here to the document viewer. So if you want to go to a designated page, you can just type in the page number here. And after pressing enter, the document viewer will navigate you to the part of the document which you wanted. Here we still have the zoom in and zoom out options. And we can also rotate documents by clicking on the rotate button here. Now the next thing that we added relates to these three dots. So right next to the rotate button here, if you click on the three dots, now we can show the viewer in a new window, which is not a new feature, but only the button changed here. So if I click on that, you can see that the document viewer now appeared in a new window, and I can easily move that window to a second screen. Now, what you may also realize is that if I open the document viewer in a new window, now the snipping toolbar appeared here. And this is one of the new features that we introduced in v5. So now when you want to change the snip type, You don't necessarily need to go back to the DataSnipper ribbon and click on each snip types. You can do it directly here from the document viewer by clicking on a text snip, validation snip, exception snip, sum snip, or a table snip. So now you can easily change the snip type. Now I will close this second screen a bit, delete the snips that I just created. And if I go back to these three dots, we also have the option to show this snipping toolbar here on the document viewer. So now when I click on it, you can see that the snipping toolbar appeared here on the bottom of the screen. So now let's go back to our example here. You can see that I opened the purchases walkthrough file here. So let's see how the snipping toolbar can fasten this procedure. So we need to collect this data from the proposal, order, invoice, and the payment. Now, before introducing the snipping toolbar, we would have to go back to the DataSnipper ribbon and click on each of these snipping types if we want to change the snip type. But let's see how fast it is with using the snipping toolbar. I will only do it for the proposal this time. So we need the supplier name from that proposal. I can just create a text snip over the supplier name. Next, we need the total amount. Next, we need to see if that proposal has been authorized. And for that, we want to use the validation snip. So I just click on the green button here on the snipping toolbar, place a validation snip over the signature. We need to see the quantity here. So I will just change back to the text snip. And for mathematical accuracy, I want to use a sum snip. So I just click on the yellow button here on the snipping toolbar and create a sum snip over the subtotal data. And as you can see, now you don't need to go back to the DataSnipper ribbon and change the snip types there. You can do it directly here on the document viewer. Now, pretty much these are the biggest UI changes that we introduced. And before jumping into the next feature, I will check if the Q&A section is how the Q&A section looks like at the moment. I can see that it's handled very well by my colleagues. But can you please verify that if I need to answer any questions live, or are you handling it?
I think everything was perfect at the moment, Edwin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Justin. So then let's continue the presentation, because the biggest change that we made relates to the document matching. So let's see the first document matching example and how the UI of document matching changed. For that, I will use a manual document matching example. So here you can see that it's an invoice testing procedure. We received the data from our clients, which are under the input columns, and we requested the invoices and the bank statements from our client. Now I'm sure that most of you are familiar with that example, as we use the same for the introduction to DataSnipper training. But let's see how you can do that example with the new changes in version 5. Now, if I navigate to the DataSnipper ribbon, you can see that the features are grayed out. And as I'm sure that you are aware of, the first step of using DataSnipper is to import documents. Now let's use the document organizer for that. So when I click on it, as I already mentioned, now you can drag and drop documents here. So let's see how that works. I will just navigate to the supporting documents folder, select all the documents that we need for that test work. And I will just drag and drop it here to the document organizer. Now you can see that all the documents appeared here on the document organizer. And since we have 2 output columns, let's create folders for those as well. Now first, let's create the invoices group. And also create a bank statement group. Now the next step that we need to do is to drag and drop these documents to the corresponding folders. So I will just search for the bank statement here, drag and drop it to the bank statements. And when I go back, I can easily sort my supporting documents according to these attributes. So I will just sort it based on the folders. Now you can see all the documents that are already grouped, since the bank statement belongs to the bank statement group. Now I will select all, deselect the bank statement since I already grouped that document, and I will drag and drop the invoices to the invoices group. Now that we have created those folders, let's see how document matching looks like now. So after clicking on OK, the document organizer disappeared. And now we have the document group here, which we can check on the document viewer. So let's start setting up the document matching. Now when I click on document matching, you can see that the configuration appears here on the right-hand side, but the UI changed significantly. Now it looks very similar to form extraction, as I'm sure that you are aware of that for form extraction, we already had templates, but now that we have introduced document matching templates, here you can see all types of document matching templates. You have the featured ones, the My templates, and if it's enabled on your license, you also have the company templates which are linked to your license, and everyone in your organization can reach those. But before talking about the templates, let's see the changes in the manual document matching procedure. So if we want to start a document matching procedure manually, all we need to do is to click on the blue Start New Document Matching button here. So now when I click on it, you can see that instead of an old looking configuration, now we have a step-by-step guide of how we can set up document matching. So the first step that we need to do is to select our sample data. Now, since only one cell is selected, you can see that document matching now gives you instant feedback on the data that you currently select. You can see that one cell is selected, and the document matching says that no data exists within the range selected for matching. Please select data to proceed. So now, instead of realizing that your settings are wrong at the end of your configuration, now you get instant feedback during each step of performing a document matching. So let's select the input data as the first step. You can select it easily by using your workbook. So you can see that when I select different type of data, it automatically updates step 1 in the document matching configuration. I also have the option to type in cell data manually if you are a more advanced user of Excel. But now let's just use the workbook and select all the input data that we need. Now, since we selected the headers as well, we also need to tick the first row include headers option as well. So when I click on that, now I made it sure that document matching knows that the first row is a header row, and it needs to search for information below that row. Now let's click on next. It will navigate us to the next step of document matching, and here we need to select our documents. Now, if you are performing a two-way match, you can use the all documents option. But since we are performing a three-way match, so between the inputs, the invoices, and the bank statements, we will use the document folders that we already created at the document organizer. So now when I click on the document organizer, you can see all the folders that you have created in the document organizer. And we need all of them for this document matching example. So I will select both the invoices and the bank statements. But if you didn't create those folders before you started document matching, you can still click on the blue Add New Folder here, and it will navigate you back to the document organizer. But now, since we created those folders, I will just use the invoices and the bank statements. And now when I click on next, here comes the final step of configuring document matching. Now we need to define only the output columns. Now, before version 5, you also had to define the input columns for document matching. But now, since we made the selection on the first step of the configuration, we don't need to change the input columns. We only need to configure the output columns here. So the output for the invoices on the amount, it will be column E. So I can still type in the column name using the keyboard and press enter. And as you can see here on the bottom, document matching will give instant feedback here as well regarding your configuration. And since the same column is used multiple times, I don't have the option to click on match all rows. And based on that error message, I know that what I need to change in the configuration in order for document matching to work. So now let's find the corresponding output column for the date. It will be column F. And for the invoice number, it's column G. Now let's do the same for the bank statement, since we still see this error message here. The amount, it will be column E. We don't need the date from the bank statement, so I can just scroll up and select no output for that attribute. And if I go back, the invoice number will be column J. And now that we have the correct configuration, you can see that the error message here on the bottom disappeared. And now we have the option to click on the blue match all rows here. But before doing that, let's see if we still have the advanced options for DataSnipper for document matching. So here, right next to the input columns, you can see these three dots. After clicking on it, here you can see all the advanced functionalities that you can turn on for each attribute. The first one is the mandatory field, which makes a field mandatory, as the name suggests, which means that if DataSnipper is not able to identify a match for that attribute, it won't search for the other input attributes as well. If you need some information of what this option is capable of, you can just hover your mouse over that little information button here, but you can also click on it. And if you click on it, you can see that it will navigate you to our knowledge base, where you can get some tips and tricks of how to use document matching in version 5. So if you are stuck at configuring document matching, you can always just click on the information button right next to the advanced features, and using our knowledge base, you can find your answers there. Now, the new feature that we introduced in here at the advanced functionalities is the fuzzy text matching. Now, basically, it's a threshold, but for texts. So, for example, if you have sample data where the company name is LinkedIn Inc., and on the invoice it's indicated as LinkedIn Incorporated, then you can turn on fuzzy text matching, because in that case, DataSnipper will be able to recognize these differences as well and create the cross-references between your Excel workbook and the imported supporting documents. So again, the fuzzy text matching is basically a threshold on text strings. Now, speaking about thresholds, we still have the option to turn on a threshold for the amounts. You can see that the threshold option is only appears for the amount, since only that attribute contains numeric data. Now, if I click on that, now you can see that we set a value, the threshold, or a percentage. So now we also have the option to set up, for example, 5% as a threshold for the amount, but we still have the option to eliminate only the rounding differences, so put a value as a threshold. Now for this demonstration, I will just put a value here, since I only want to eliminate the rounding differences. And when I turn this threshold on and close the advanced features pop-up window, you can see that at the output columns, it turned to blue, which means that an advanced feature is turned on. If I hover my mouse over this information button here, you can see the active options for that attribute. And here you can see that I have set a threshold of 1 for the amount for both the invoices and the bank statement. Now let's do the same for the invoice number. I want to turn on the mandatory field for that. So if DataSnipper is not able to find a match for the invoice number, it won't search for the other two attributes. Now that I have turned on this feature, you can see that these two columns are also turned to blue. And if I hover my mouse over the information button, you can see that the active option mandatory field is turned on. Now that I have done the configuration for document matching, the next step that we need to do is to match our rows. And as before, you can see that document matching did the hard work for our test of details procedures and created cross-references between the supporting document and the Excel workbook. And now we just need to use our professional judgment to validate those results. Now, this is how you can set up a manual document matching exercise in version 5. Let's see what the templates look like. So let's assume that you did this invoice testing procedure in the interim phase of the audit, but you will have the same procedure and you want to use the same layout in the final phase of the audit as well. Now you can save this document matching as a template, so you don't have to configure document matching again in the final phase of the audit. So if I go back to document matching, here right next to match all rows, now we have a button called Save as Template. So by clicking on it, you can see that new pop-up window, which might be familiar from your form extraction exercises. So I can add the title. I will just add in invoice testing. And I also have the option to add the description as well. But now I will leave it blank for now. Now, after clicking on OK, oh, sorry, I already have this template. So I will just type in v5 to the end of it. And now that now you can see the new pop-up window, the template is now available under the My Templates section. Now I also have the option to review the template to make sure that everything is saved correctly. So let's see how a saved template looks like. So by clicking on the review, you can see that this is how a template looks like. So basically, it will delete your input data and pulls all the design from the previous template to a new sheet. You can see that the folders are also included within the template, and all you need to do is to paste your data into the input columns and import the supporting documents to the template folders. Now let's see. So I will just copy and paste my input data here. And I just need to click on Match All Rows. And document matching will run with the same configuration as we set in the previous example. And basically, these are the manual document matching steps that are new in version 5. And also, this is the feature of My Templates. But let's take a look at the feature templates, which are templates created by us. So if you are dealing with, let's see that if you are dealing with an expense test, how you can leverage our featured template. Before jumping into that, I will pause for a moment. I can see that the Q&A section is handled very well by my colleagues. But can you please confirm if everything is handled well, or do I need to answer some questions live?
At the moment, I think everything's fine. We're just running through. There's a few that are building up. If we need to, I'll unmute and ask you to explain something in a sec.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will continue to the next demonstration, which will be the expense testing feature template. So let's see how it looks like. So I already created the input data in that Excel sheet. So now I will use the expense testing feature template. But before doing that, I will also import the supporting documents for that expense testing procedure. So I will use the document organizer again. One other thing that is important to note about the document organizer, there is an easier way to create folders. So rather than doing it manually, you can also select the folders in your computer and drag and drop those folders into document organizer. Let's see what happens if we do it that way. So it will take a few seconds to import all the documents. But since I drag and drop the folders from my local computer, you can see that those folders are already populated here in the document organizer. So now I don't need to manually group my documents. I can do it on my local computer as well and drag and drop those folders into document organizer. So now that I have imported my supporting documents for that expense testing procedure, let's see how easy it is to set up a document matching exercise using a feature template. So now if I navigate to document matching, the next step that I need to do is to click on the expense testing here under the feature templates. And here you can see that a new sheet has been created in my Excel workbook. Here you have details about the procedure itself, and also here you have all the data that you need for this test work. Now here on the right hand side, you can see that the first step of utilizing a template is to paste my input data into column D, E, F, G, H, I. So I will go back to the sample data sheet, select all the data here, and I just copy and paste that data into that expense testing template. Now you can see these green ticks right next to each column name. And also, since I used the same folder names when I imported the supporting documents as the names indicated in the template, you can see that these folders are automatically used in document matching. And all I need to do is click on Match All Rows. And if I scroll to the right, you can see all the results within just a matter of seconds. And now you just need to validate those results based on your professional judgment and focus on those cells where DataSnipper was not able to find exact matches. Now, if you want to make a change in the configuration of document matching, you still have the option to do that by clicking on Copy and Edit. And here you can easily just edit the configuration manually if you want to turn on or off the more advanced functionalities of document matching. Now, basically, these are the new features for the document matching templates. I will pause for a moment to see if the questions are handled or not. I can see that the Q&A section is nearly empty. So the last feature that I want to show you still relates to document matching, and it's also an advanced functionality of document matching. So for that exercise, I will use a trial balance to financial statement reconciliation procedure. Here on the left-hand side, you can see the trial balance data. I have summarized it using a pivot table. I have divided the current year and prior year amount by 1,000, since in the financial statement there's also a 1,000 separator. And after that, I use document matching to watch these accounts to the annual report. I use the account name, the current year data, and the prior year data. And here on the right-hand side, you can see the results I got using document matching on version 4.1. And if you take a closer look at their income, you can see that the prior year data is not matched correctly. It is at a completely other part of the annual report. But now, if we want to avoid these types of mistakes with document matching, we have the option to turn on another functionality of document matching. So if I click on continue document matching, here you can see my configuration, and currently there's only a deviation allowed to eliminate the rounding differences. But you can see these 3 dots in the output columns as well. Now, if I click on that, here you can see the text force match on same. And basically what it does is that it forces the matches to be in either on the same row of a table or on the same page of the document. And it means that if DataSnipper is not able to identify all the attributes that you set up in the input columns, it won't place snips at different parts of the document. So now I want to force all these matches to be on the same page of the document. And again, focus on the other income row. And now that I have turned on the force match option, after clicking on match all rows and allowing document matching to override the data, let's see what happened with the other income. Since this force match option was turned on, now the prior year amount for the other income is matched correctly to the annual report. So these are all the new features which came with version 5. I can see that the Q&A section is still handled very well. Is there anything that I need to answer live, or are you dealing with the questions?
We are working through the questions. At the moment, there's nothing that we need to show live. There are some complicated answers, so apologies to everyone as we work through those questions, but there's nothing that needs to be shown live.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So basically, these are all the features that I wanted to cover in today's session. I will jump back into the presentation a bit. So my next question in Menti, if you are still logged in, at which DataSnipper version 5 update are you most excited about? I would be interested to see if you are excited about version 5, and if yes, then what are the features that are most exciting? I can see a lot of answers coming through. I love to see that nearly all the features are listed here, which are new in version 5. Means that our product team did a really good job. And document matching is the main driver of your excitement. Well, thank you very much for your answers. And as of next steps, the first thing, if you don't have DataSnipper installed, you have the option to book a demo with our sales team. You can click on the link on the Menti slide deck. Or if you are already using DataSnipper, but you are in a previous version, you can always reach out to your customer success manager to get the update for version 5 and use the new functionalities of DataSnipper. Well, I would like to thank you very much for your attention today. And as always, we would be very happy to hear your feedback about today's session, so we can incorporate those in our future version change webinars as well. You can reach the feedback form by clicking on the link on the left-hand side or by scanning the QR code on the right-hand side. So again, thank you very much for your attention and happy snipping.